Look, let's be honest for a moment. Complaining about film prices is kind of stupid, and I'm tired of it. Yes, it's a trap that I've fallen into. Yes, I've bickered about them, but there's really no sense in it, since the prices are going to be what they're going to be, whether any one of us shouts about it or not. And the reality is, film has always been expensive. Ask anybody who's been using film for a number of years or even a number of decades, and they'll tell you that it's never been particularly cheap. Photography is and always has been an expensive hobby. But if you're willing to look beyond the catalogs of Kodak, Fujifilm, and Ilford, the sort of three big brand names that we tend to think of with film photography nowadays, and look at some of the more, maybe less well-known brands like AGFA, Kentmere, I know that's technically Ilford, or maybe Foma, look at some of their Foma pound films, you'll find a variety of really compelling options that are a lot less expensive, including my absolute favorite black and white budget film stock, AGFA APX 100, which I was able to pick up for just $6 a roll. APX 100 is a black and white panchromatic negative film. It's rated for a nominal sensitivity of 100 ISO, so it's a relatively low-speed film by today's standards. It's manufactured in the EU by a company that isn't AGFA Photo. In fact, the company AGFA Photo went bankrupt in the early 2000s, and the films that you can buy today that are branded under that name are manufactured under license by a different company. Now, the film is only available in 35mm format, which isn't a problem for me since I shoot 35mm primarily, and that's my preferred format anyhow. However, if you're looking for a budget 120 film, there is no 120 version. You can either buy 36 exposure cassettes or bulk rolls, even in case you wanted to load your own film rolls. The film is also available as a 400 speed variant, but for this video, I'm going to be showing you images from the 100 speed, which is the one that I have more experience with, and the one that I like best. AGFA APX 100 is advertised as being suited for all sorts of photography, sort of advertised as an all-round type film stock, and I would generally tend to agree with that. I found that it worked well for a variety of different applications. All of the images that you're going to see in this video I shot using my Nikon FM. When developed in standard chemistry, the film is supposedly supposed to deliver relatively good sharpness and fine grain if exposed correctly. I developed my film using Ilford ID11 at 18 degrees Celsius for 10 minutes and 30 seconds using a standard inversion technique, fixed with Ilford Rapid Fix, used a water stop bath first before fixing it, and then scanned all the images using my Epson V600 and was thoroughly impressed with the results. Even though this film stock is a little bit less expensive, which might make it sound like it's more budget-friendly, the performance of this emulsion is still absolutely excellent. If exposed to sufficient light, I found that the grain renders incredibly fine, which I really like in 100-speed film stocks. I found that the resolution and the detail retention of this film was also absolutely excellent. The amount of detail that I was able to capture in the highlights right down to the shadows was very impressive. I was very pleased with the dynamic range of this film. I never really found that I wasn't gathering the detail that I wanted to be able to see in my shots when I was making my enlargements, while digitally scanning the film in this case. There are other films that perform a lot better in terms of resolution and clarity, and a bit better in sharpness as well, but this film, for being what it is, does an excellent job. I found that the tonality that this film renders, from the brightest whites to the darkest blacks, to be very pleasing, very smooth, and very nice. I particularly am a huge fan of the way this film looks, and I found that I was able to continuously shoot in very contrasty situations without losing any major highlight detail, even when I was a little bit concerned because of the shadow regions that I was trying to preserve in the image. The film does have a wide exposure latitude as well. I feel like you can comfortably underexpose by a stop and overexpose by maybe 1 to 2 stops and still get good results, but I found that the best results came when metering this film at 100 and shooting it for 100 ISO. When you do underexpose by too much, things start to get muddy and you start to lose some of your detail, and I find that the image blocks up a little bit. Not a huge fan of that. In short, I loved every single image that I got off of my rolls of AGFA APX 100, and I'm so in love with this film that I intend on shooting this film lots more in the future. Honestly, I've touched on this a little bit already, but despite the fact that this film has a more budget-friendly price, I really didn't feel like I was trading anything in terms of performance or image quality with this film stock. I found it did very well in all of the situations that I used it for and was very happy with all of the images that I got. In fact, I love this film so much that it's become my go-to 100 speed black and white film. Not because it's cheap, but because I just think it looks really, really good all round. Now, if AGFA APX isn't something that you're wanting to try, maybe it doesn't quite tickle your fancy, or maybe you need a 120 option because you like to shoot medium format, another good alternative film stock to look at that's also a 100 speed film and relatively budget friendly is Fomapan Profi 100.